This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here's yet another affordable Android smartphone. This one is available through carriers in the United States. We look at the Sprint model. It's also available on Cricket Wireless, which is powered by AT&T, and T-Mobile offers it too. A little difference in the pricing there. Anyway, sub $200 no matter what carrier you're looking at it on. And this is called the Samsung Galaxy Grand Prime. Is that enough names for you, right? You would think maybe you're getting more for your money instead of, a budget phone. It's a budget phone. 5-inch display here, less than full HD resolution, quad-core Snapdragon 410 CPU inside, so that's not too bad. 1.5 gigs of RAM. Decent amount of storage. Some more features that really, for the price, make it not bad at all. We're going to look at it now. So this is the Samsung Galaxy Grand Prime, available, as I said, on several different carriers as an affordable phone. We're looking at the Sprint edition here. Now, the Galaxy Grand Prime has been around since last year, and originally it was a phone with KitKat, and now it's running Android 5.1.1 Lollipop. So we're looking at the latest version here. It is your traditional old-school Samsung phone, shall we say. It looks very much like a Samsung phone. You have the middle hardware oval button that you press in, the usual masked-on capacitive buttons right there, and the genuine shiny kind of plastic look that Samsung does, but they do put a kind of faux, powder metal finish on this. And what's even nicer in today's world of sealed phones, including the flagship Samsungs, is look at that. Haha. There's the 2600 milliamp battery right there. So if your battery gets old and tired, though, you'll probably be ready for an upgrade by the time that happens, but maybe you're going on the road a lot too, and you need a spare battery. 2600 milliamp battery is removable. There we have the micro SIM card slot, and stacked on top of it is a micro SD card slot for cards up to 64 gigs. So yes, you can expand storage here. You're going to need that because it only has 8 gigs of storage, so there's not a whole lot of room on internal memory. Obviously, this is the speaker grill here. 2 openings, which is interesting enough. It's mostly blocked, one of them though by the back cover here, which has only one slit. 8-megapixel camera on the back with an LED flash, and it's a Samsung camera. They do make good cameras, so 8 megapixels is not going to excite anybody in terms of overall resolution, but it's not a bad camera overall. Back's pretty easy to snap on and off, no struggling, no weirdness happening. And on the front we have a 5-megapixel camera right there, so better than average resolution, which has been the way of affordable Android phones these days. It's also a fairly wide-angle lens. It's pretty good quality. It's not bad at all. Obviously, the usual earpiece is up here. Now, the 5-inch display is not the high point of the device, so if we choose one of the prettier and sharper desktop backgrounds like this, it doesn't look too bad. This is 960 by 540 pixels, which was state-of-the-art 3 years ago, so you're not going to get a very high-resolution display here. When you're looking at photos or playing games, you might say, well, that's not the sharpest thing I've ever seen. It's not hideous, it's not unreadable or anything like it. I mean, the text on our icons and things like that is decent enough, but what do you expect for the price? On Sprint, this is $240 full retail, and that's it, out the door, no monthly payments, nothing. $30 if you take it with a 2-year contract, and I'm sure there's a variety of payment plans also available. It's even cheaper on Cricket Wireless, which is owned by AT&T, $129. It used to be $180, but they dropped the price recently. T-Mobile sells it for $189. Again, those are full retail prices. It's also floating around as an unlocked phone, but the ones I've seen so far are the older version that had Android 4.4 KitKat on them. Again, this is running Android Lollipop 5.1, and we have Samsung's TouchWiz software here, their look, their feel, which if you're a Samsung person will be familiar. Doesn't particularly bog down the phone. It's usable enough. Again, this is a 1.2 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon 410 CPU, which is a low mid-range CPU. 4 cores on this, 1.5 gigs of RAM. It's fine for everyday use. It's if you're really into gaming, you really want a faster phone if you can. That works just the same way as it does with computers, but a bit less so. Games are optimized to run on a variety of device types, so you can play some Dead Trigger 2 on this, and Asphalt 8 certainly will run. You might just see some lag and that sort of thing. It's not too bad, though. There's a lot of competition out there in the affordable range now, particularly for the unlocked phones. We looked at the Alcatel One Touch Idol 3, and they're going to have a 4.7-inch size for those of you who like a smaller phone. There's the Asus Zenfone 2. But those are GSM only, so if you are a Sprint person, then those won't work for you. But then there's a Moto G that just came out too, that is available in the Sprint version. So for around the same price, that one's pretty compelling too. It's a tough game to be in now, the affordable game in America. This has single band Wi-Fi 802.11n, Bluetooth 4.0. It does have NFC and it does work with wireless payment systems, and of course it has the usual GPS inside. So all your basic features are covered. Call quality on the phone, now we're testing the Sprint version. Their network is not the strongest where we are in the Dallas metro area. It was a little bit indistinct and a little bit fuzzy sounding. And in part that might be because it is a lower end phone with lower end audio hardware, and also it may be the network, because our data speeds were also not really terribly fantastic. And I'll show you some of the results we've been getting here. And that's pretty much indicative of what we're seeing on 4G LTE right now. So the phone's reception, we've seen some Sprint phones that manage to get 2 bars of LTE, a little bit stronger signal in dB. This one's getting 1 bar, so not the signal magnet that some higher end Samsung phones are. And the rest of that really just has to do with Sprint's network in our area. Sorry, Sprint, but not a little ding is the amount of bloatware that they pre-install. Now, Sprint Zone is fine. You want to manage your Sprint life and all that sort of thing. We got Sprint Movies and TV on here, which some of you might actually enjoy. We have eBay preloaded, Facebook preloaded, Uber preloaded, lots of things preloaded, all this whole wild tangent games. There's too much bloatware on here, honestly. I think it's a little overwhelming, especially for a phone that's more affordable, maybe geared towards novices to the smartphone market, and they just see all this stuff everywhere and taking up space, too. Camera software is typical Samsung, and that's actually a good thing, and the camera story is pretty good overall. You can tap to focus if you can actually focus on something. We're making it a little bit hard for it to do that right now. Shoot a shot as quick as that. You've got a variety of settings available here. Not as fancy as something on the Galaxy S6, for example, but you've got a decent amount of controls there. We have flash control over here, a timer, and you can add special effects. Again, not as fancy as a high-end phone, but for the price, it's not too bad. But again, some of the unlocked competitors are kind of passing it by in terms of features. In terms of quality, though, it's actually not a bad camera. Likewise, the front camera on this, again, 5 megapixel wide angle. Being wide angle, it will distort a little bit. If you have a big nose, your nose will grow as a result. Anything close will be exaggerated. Anything farther away will recede a bit with a wide angle lens held up close. But other than that, it's a good camera. It's sharper. When you're doing video chat, you'll look more like you, which is always a good thing. And it handles noise fairly well too. The rear camera can do 1080p video recording. So how about benchmarks? This is on Tutu we have on screen right here. Here's our score right here near the bottom of the lineup. And this is pretty much on par with other Snapdragon 410 CPUs. It does, in all the benchmarks, pretty much the same as other Snapdragon 410s. It scored 22,256, you can see there. In Quadrant, it scored 14,704. Geekbench 3, 470 single-core, 1442 multi-core, half the speed of a flagship phone. But then again, for something that's $200 or less, or $240 on Sprint, how much can you expect? For 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited, it scored 4,468, which is just about the same as what the Moto G scored. So in terms of horsepower, this and the Moto G are neck and neck. On SunSpider, the JavaScript test, it scored 1,497, where lower numbers are better, and the flagship phone scored in the 300s to the 500s. And where this guy is scoring, and this is using Chrome for the test, it's about average for a phone of this class. So all in all, it's affordable. That's the first thing in its favor. You can get it from your carrier. For those of you who like to work directly with your carrier, if you're Sprint, most phones, in fact, are carrier-only phones. The Moto G being one exception that you can go and purchase direct from Motorola if you want. It's solidly built. In fact, this is a little heavy for a Samsung phone. At 5.5 ounces, they tend to be very light. This one feels a little bit heavy, but another thing that stands in favor is that removable battery. It has expandable storage, things that seem to be going the way of the dodo bird these days, especially on Samsung's higher-end phones. The display is not a high point, but as you saw, I mean, it's not the worst thing that we've seen either. The brightness is adequate for outdoor use. That's about it. It gets very fingerprinty and grimy more than some other phones, so as long as you keep it clean, it's okay. It doesn't have an ambient light sensor, so you're going to be setting your brightness automatically. The cameras are decent for the price. It has the latest version currently of Android running on it, so one could certainly do worse, and for the price, you get a brand you can trust and a phone that works fairly well. So that's the Samsung Galaxy Grand Prime. It's not particularly grand at 5 inches, is it? It's a manageable size phone for those of you who like Samsung, you like TouchWiz, but you really can't afford, don't want to spend the money on something like the Galaxy S6, for example. For those of you who are looking for a carrier phone versus an unlocked phone, it's not a bad proposition. We just wish that the display, this 960 by 540 display, were a little bit higher resolution, a little bit zingier, but it's not hideous. It's a solid phone, it's affordable, it's a brand that most people can trust. That's the Samsung Galaxy Grand Prime. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.